I was looking for you.
When is that? When do we need to start looking at that for our projection?
I know the report from last year.
Yeah.
When's it July? We're in now.
Yeah.
I'm not raising stormwater fees, just don't be able to raise your taxes.
We need to talk
But
about
we might not have to raise taxes, city tax.
What's that mean in March?
yeah.
We will if we want to get anything done.
That's that, and as soon as you're ready, I'll pull out the Zoom.
I'm waiting on you.
Okay, so one more the Zoom, okay, whenever you're ready, so we've got the live and everything that. Let me just see if Commissioner Goody is still on. First, he's got a few minutes.
No, it's all, it's our meeting, it's our legislative meeting.
We are,
You were supposed to send them to yourself.
I did,
We talked about it.
okay.
You ready?
Yep, I sent.
Okay. I'll call us back in session. If you're eating, please continue.
Big microphone.
Yeah, fortunately, Alan's going to do all the talking and he's not eating, so. At this time, strategic planning and budget priorities, Alan Steinbeck. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been doing this for a few years now. I'm always in the after lunch spot, which makes me wonder if you all really like me that much or not. The hardest spot of the day when you've been listening all morning and really taking a lot of information in, and now we're asking you to give a little more in doing that. So I appreciate that, but I do want to get you all talking after you're done chewing. But I'm going to talk for a second about what the plan is. We want to talk about the capital improvement program list a little bit, not to go through each individual project necessarily. We can pull projects off the list and talk about them if you want to, but I want to talk about the general utility of that, how it's going to be used in the budgeting process, what you all want to get out of that to help Mr. Turner and other department heads get some feedback about making that capital improvement program something that's useful in terms of day-to-day management, month-over-month decision-making, and that sort of thing. There's also the task of talking about City Hall renovation and some of the items that are on that, and we're going to cover that sheet. You have in your packets both the CIP. The version that I have is dated 11/20. I think I may have the most up-to-date, same one that's in your packet. Mr. Turner handed me a paper copy a couple of months ago, and I think it's the same.
November 20th, first time we'll tell that answer.
Okay, so we have all have the same copy. And then you have this sheet, which is the summary of the line item cost for City Hall renovations that are to be paid for with the state grant. We're going to talk about that. But I wanted to start by saying that I'm really enthusiastic about the conversation today and the tone of everything. You know, a couple of years ago, we were in the mode of resolving differences, I'll say, about things, and the relations between agencies and this government and the county are very encouraging to me. Not just in terms of talking about solving some of today's problems, but about setting a vision for the community, about tackling its challenges head on of sort of your place in the region and what that means for you. But also taking advantage of opportunities for collaboration, which I think are really important across providing services and building facilities and infrastructure. So I think the sun is shining today here in Creedmoor and in Granville County, and that's a good thing. Certainly, we are in a period of what I would call economic challenges, and individual families have been suffering. Wages have not been keeping up with the cost of anything, food, housing, transportation. People are having trouble paying their bills because their wages and earnings are not keeping up with the cost. And that's part of the challenge of you all as elected officials making decisions about collecting money from said people to pay for public services. I know that it is a gut-wrenching thing to have to go through, and you are the appointed stewards of the community's assets, and it's always tough to come up with additional funds, especially in light of some of the economic circumstances that we live in. I would add to that, I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket on the conversation, but the value of the dollar is not what it used to be, and there's some very complicated reasons for why that is true, but that is the case. And so it's more expensive to build, it's more expensive to maintain and operate, and it's falling on all of us to have to deal with that. And the reasons why some of that happened that's nothing that we can control. It's just sort of the inevitability of where we've gotten over the past few years. ARPA funds were important in enhancing, in some cases shoring up local government funds over the past few years, but those are going to dry up and not be around. So some of the advancement of certain types of projects, you heard about ARPA funding in the Seguasa tranche of financing this morning, and there's some other things. Each municipality and county received funds that helped over the last few years, and some of that's not going to be around. And just on top of that, you know, the economy seems to be turning a little bit, and maybe unrecognizable within the Triangle region here in this part of North Carolina, where things are growing pretty fast and people just want to keep coming here. But there's certainly some softening in things like the housing market and the office market, and even jobs are starting to turn a little bit as well. So I think we're in some somewhat challenging times when it comes to making public decisions and coming up with the money for things, and that should not be lost in this conversation that despite all the optimism and the opportunities that exist, that those things exist as well. The growth issues are significant here. Your position in the region is unique. You are a small county of around 60,000 people, and this community is around 5,000 people, which is not a lot of people to pay the bills of all of the complicated government services and things that go on here. And that was the theme I kept hearing this morning in hearing you all talk about addressing these problems. There's just sometimes not a lot to go by. And so economic development couldn't be more important in doing that. And people couldn't be more important as well. Like the equation of getting the right people in place to do the right thing here in Granville County, that is directly related to these issues of economics and money and pay and housing costs and transportation and all these things. So there's sort of these mutually exacerbating problems that have to be overcome and successfully living out your charge here as a local government. And Granville County is, well, there's a ton of promise. I grew up in Atlanta, and I watched Atlanta go from cow farms to the mega region that it is today. And there's numerous counties in the region, many like yours, some different. But there were some real issues with growth. Growth doesn't pay for itself very well, and it especially doesn't pay for itself in an environment where you have to plan and pay for infrastructure and community facilities in anticipation of that growth coming. It's literally impossible to do. So that's I'll get into that a little bit more of that in a second. And the last thing in terms of my perspective is you have this small city, small county issue where you all can actually convene a meeting like this, and your county commissioners come to your meeting to talk about these things, and you can talk like your neighbors, and you are neighbors, and you have this sort of feeling. So while you do have limited resources, you have this incredibly great advantage in being able to talk to each other and collaborate and do things at a local scale and make decisions that are not big city complicated decisions, but community decisions that are actually manageable. So I think you should try to take advantage of that as you implement these things and work on that extensively. Those partnerships are key to making things happen. I'll say a little bit about back to the growth and development issues and the implementation plan. It was brought up, the fee in lieu payment around parks, and was mentioned and brought up a second ago. I have been doing some impact fee work, and impact fees are just another word for payment in lieu fees or systems fees that are development fees that are charged to new development to pay for new infrastructure. And we do this down in Florida, where apparently they're operating under a different constitution down there because it's perfectly legal to do this in Florida. Our Supreme Court here in North Carolina, the legislature, have not been very supportive of this practice. But Florida being a high-growth state and being sort of overrun with development, they have taken on this impact fee policy pretty much area-wide. And we've done some studies. We just did a study for Pasco County
for parks, and we're doing one for libraries now. We determined that each individual person in Pasco County had about $4,000 worth of parks facilities already in place. That's sort of the per person, that's the per household value. So the per person value is something like $2,000 worth of parks per person in that county. It's a very well-developed 800-something thousand person county. Still, there's $2,000 worth of infrastructure per head in that county. For libraries, there's about $800 per household worth of facilities there. And you start to think about that, think about the community assets that you own. If you were going to give everybody in the community or every household in the community some stake in, like, let's say this building, it would be on a per person basis here in Creedmoor, right at $1,500 is about the estimate I came up with. So if everybody in Creedmoor if this building burned to the ground, everybody in Creedmoor had to write a check for a new building, they'd be writing a check for $1,500 to rebuild City Hall. So your facilities and everything, there's a lot of inherent value in them. And when you think about a new person showing up or in every new house that shows up, theoretically, you have to add additional incremental resources to everything that you have to pay for those, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars per household. It's probably something in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 just in infrastructure costs. Forget about operating anything after you build it. So, unfortunately, we're here in North Carolina where it's very troublesome to do some of these payment in lieu things, and you constantly get challenged, and the court system is sort of fighting against you. But based on my experience, it's one of the things that has the greatest upside utility for communities in North Carolina who want to fight for this and actually do something about it, where new development is more so paying for itself, where instead of you having to use your general fund to pay for new development and the things that it requires, which basically means you're having to charge people in the community for the cost of new development in addition to charging the new development for what it costs. And at some point, the math gets very difficult if you don't have these sort of payment in lieu fees or impact fees that come along with this stuff. And the context of Granville is such that you have things like the Saguaso improvements, you have this pent-up demand for growth and development, and at least for a few years, at some point in the future, probably a 3 to 5 year period, you're going to be the fastest growing place in the state of North Carolina because all of this pent-up demand will be, South Granville County will be transformed by that. If you think about your neighbors over in Franklin County and what's happening in South Franklin and around Youngsville and area of Wake Forest, the growth is going incredibly fast over there. And if you haven't visited and just driven up and down US 1, I would encourage you to do that, because I'm not saying all of that is exactly coming here, but similar types of growth and development pressures are at play here. And so you have to think like that game is about to happen in order to succeed. And you got to figure out how to pay for the public side of that is the reaction to that, without overburdening existing citizens. So that's sort of the context of this, and I hope that that you all can do that effectively, working through the CIP and other things, and together across different agencies and governments. I wanted to, I guess I'll just stop, and you're done chewing for the most part, but any quick reaction to what I'm saying? Is it making sense? And any additional perspective that you want to give on just the context of growth and what it means to Creedmoor?
Commissioner Albright.
So just a little, a question about the impact fee.
Yes.
So is that when a person, we have a new subdivision, the person will pay $500, whatever the amount would be. Does that impact their neighborhood in general, or is that money that would go to, like, if we had a Central Park or something, like, where does that money stay?
You'd have a plan, you draw boundaries around it, the fees collected in the district, and the improvements that the money is used for are within that same district. So you might get a park like down the road, not necessarily right next to the new development,
yep,
but it's within a reasonable boundary where you have
rational nexus between the public investment.
So not just like a common area in your subdivision, it would be
It would be public, it
wherever.
goes into a public fund.
Okay,
And the
that's
new-
what I was asking.
The new
Sorry.
development pays the fee, not.
Developer pays it.
It's a
Yeah.
fee charge to new development on a per household basis usually.
So the builder pays that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And so in the state, everyone's like, it's illegal, and you had the same reaction, it's not illegal, it's just very hard to get done. And it can be challenged quite readily if you don't have the right legal construct, studies, and other things to back you up. But, it is something worth contemplating here as an implementation strategy. It's something that can go hand in hand with general funds to make some of this happen, and it's a topic that, having done all this work in Florida that I've done, and now it's just natural, everyday stuff that we do down there, and why it's so foreign here is really interesting to me. So, I just wanted to put that on the table as a positive thing for this commission to contemplate, so.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Wheeler.
What would it take to implement that? What would we have to do as a,
You have to do a very careful fee study that is a legal construct that demonstrates the infrastructure that's needed, the fees that, and you basically set a fee based on the study of future growth potential, the cost of additional facilities, and link those two things together into a.
city manager, is that something we can look into?
I'm taking those.
Is that something we can look into? A possible impact fee based on what Alan said?
I think we need to pull Kevin into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need it.
Longer-term basis, like, you could start tomorrow, but I'm saying that looking out a few years into the
Yeah.
future, thinking about something like this in advance of all that development coming, because once it comes, it's too late. You need to set your development fees and your permit fees up in advance of these happening, in order to take advantage of some of this growth and change that comes and help it pay for itself.
Yeah, I understand we have to get the attorney involved, obviously, but I'm saying, can we look at it?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I mean, the chairman mentioned earlier, last year we went to a $500 recreation fee for all the new developments in the county. I mean, every single household will pay this. Developers may pay it up front, but they're gonna pass it along for us, so.
It's a hard road, I'll be honest with you. In this state, it's difficult, but, I think it's worth exploring as a concept, and there's a conversation that should ensue that's beyond the scope of today, quite frankly, about whether it's feasible. I only get to talk to you once a year sometimes, so I'm gonna bring that up now.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So the county's already done this,
The county has, for the recreation fee.
and your attorney doesn't have a problem with it. So we would have to adopt an ordinance to do it in the city.
That's what we just added it, it's gone through the process.
Would it just be a section in the light to our ordinance? Yeah, the board would have to pass an ordinance for fee. Ours, like you gotta relate it to something.
Right. You have to have a project. A lot of times what they'll do is, let's say, you require a developer to put in a certain amount of infrastructure, like, the county requires a 10% active and passive recreation set aside. So if you're in a neighborhood that's really tight, the developer comes in and says, I can't afford to give up 10% of my property, can I give you a fee in lieu of? And that's where this thing is for, is that, if you can't provide the service, and you set your bar to the point where, like, okay, for every 10 houses, you have to have a swing set.
Yeah.
And the developer will say, well, I don't really have room for a swing set, can I just give you cash? You set it up in your ordinance to say, we'll give you a swing set near your neighborhood, and this is, you have to draw parameters about how far it's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's gotta be, proximity thing, you can't put everything on one side of town and have all the development paperwork on the other side of town. But this is a way to skin a cat, it's just a lot of things to jump through.
Mr. Frangos, did you have some?
We do have a fee in lieu, exactly the way Commissioner Conley was describing. I think Alan was talking about something a little different though.
It's the easiest way to get to the concept of what I'm talking about is to have requirements and then fee in lieu. Absolutely. But you gotta have the game plan first. You gotta have it to be quantifiable. You have to have everything set up so that this works for you. But it's basically new development should have a certain type of service associated with it. Either you provide it or you pay in lieu, and that's been determined to be one way to skin this cat.
Have we collected any fees in lieu yet? Never? Because I'm not wondering where in the world we're gonna put that money. We'd have to set up another revenue fund.
Actually, the fund, they would have to be separate.
Yeah.
So that those fees are used appropriately.
Okay.
And you can prove it.
We can, require a swimming pool.
And this is where, it is where it gets tricky, because there's a reasonableness around this that the court system is gonna ding you on. If you've gotta be within reasonable, rational nexus parameters for what you're asking for, the fee in lieu, and how you spend your money when you collect that money. I don't know, that would be a stretch, but yeah, it'd be a stretch. Right. So it's worth pursuing as a way to supplement general revenue, or grant writing. And those three things can help you get to a point where you're bringing new money into the system to pay for things that's not just general revenue, and it's beneficial. So I wanted to go, so anyway, that's worth looking into as one strategy. I wanted to get the CIP out and talk about this. Mr. Turner has endeavored to work with the department heads on this, which it clearly shows that people who are in charge of these projects are putting some pretty significant detail into this and estimating the capital expenses of various types of improvements by topic and by department, and going out to 2029, which is a kind of a long time for a municipality of your size, but I think it's useful to do because many projects take 5 years to implement. And so if you're out there looking at a project in 2029 that's rather large, knowing how to deliver that project in that year and actually expend that capital, you have to think several years in advance. So this does give you a snapshot of where those capital funds are intended to be expensed. And I also think it's a good game plan for budgeting, but also what kind of resources you're going to need to make that project happen 2 years from now. Sometimes that planning and engineering or design has to start today, coming up with that funding. So the bottom line, have you all had a discussion of this in a workshop session or anything up to date? Okay. It was distributed to the commissioners. Okay, all right. And so I think that's still the recommendation. We want to get some general feedback today, but specific feedback, and any sort of adoption process may become later, obviously. But what I'm noticing about this is with the projects that are aligned, and I know there was some effort put into putting projects out into time with some reasonable bounds on how much money would fall into each year. And it looks like we're at for about $500,000 average, except for the exception being fiscal year 27, which has $1 million as a bottom line number in total capital cost. So the goal is to have this tool be something that's used during the budgeting process in particular, so that those short-term decisions about capital outlay and set-asides are remedied by this, but also what other things need to be done and programmed to get to those expenditures in, let's say, fiscal year 2025. In terms of priorities, we don't have a prioritization exercise tabled up for the capital improvements program for today. We wanted to spend our prioritization energy on the City Hall project, but I wanted to stop and see if there was any comments on the structure of this, the nature of this, and if you wanted to elevate any individual project into the conversation.
Is anything missing? Did you overlook it? It shouldn't be on here. You'd rather see it in, that's the kind of feedback I was looking.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so I have just highlighted 4 things on this, and I'm like, oh my God. And is this the place, this is the time to ask. The software upgrade for community development. Have we not got our computers all upgraded yet? What's the deal?
The VC3 is still working, but that's not, we were talking more about a large-scale permitting system, I think, right? Was it? I can't remember exactly what the line says.
It says software upgrade equipment, and it's $1,000, but it's not until 26. Yeah, but I thought we had it all done.
It's a permitting software that's different from just general city software.
Okay, all right, okay. And down in recreation, why do we have a two-person pedal boat replacement on this list for next year? We just bought 2 brand-new pedal boats. They are 1 year old.
That's correct. We have,
Thanks for replacing the whole.
this was a 4 or a 6 for the other side. 4 tires. Oh, and we're getting ready to surplus 2 because they need so much repairs and correct.
The 2 older ones.
Older, yes, ma'am.
All right, okay, because I'm going, and the price went down, so that's good to know. They went down to 16,000, they were at 17,000.
That was for 2.
Playground replacements and ADA access, I don't know where that is gonna be. I guess that's gonna be either Harris Park or Lake Rogers. Dennis, you didn't do this, did you?
I did not, but those are obviously the only 2 places we have playground. So my guess would be Lake Rogers, but Harrison Park would also be included in that.
I'm grateful to see our Christmas tree is here. Steve, did you throw that old decrepitated Christmas tree out yet? Please do, and make yourself some more room.
But you're talking about in 29, right, 5 years out.
Christmas tree? It's in 2025. Oh, the playground equipment. Yeah, so we're talking, see, I think there's a lot more we could do in this year than we have on here. We don't need to wait.
I think the Christmas tree needs to be put in this year, not next year.
It does
It's not funded in this year's budget.
Oh, gotcha, it'd be hit the 25 budget.
It'll be next.
Every year, tweaked and adjusted and
Gotcha.
come back to the gun.
Gotcha.
On, police replacement vehicles, are we still involved with that since we're in a lease program?
It is the lease, I would think. Is that the cost of the leasing? $80,000?
Under fleet, it says fleet capital improvement replacement vehicles.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, option, not just buying our vehicles, not.
Right, that applies if we were buying.
Right.
We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
I started it. I opened the floodgates, I'm sorry.
We need to update this list on some things that don't apply anymore.
Please.
Right, if I could get a
He
list
didn't
of
get
feedback.
feedback.
concerns, each one of you guys want an update, just to bring it back. It doesn't have to be something you gotta work through today.
Yeah, we're taking some general feedback. Specifics is great.
Yeah.
But the point is to, talk about the utility of this thing. I think we're teasing this out because we're starting to see that 5 years away is a long time, right?
Right.
We're talking about stuff and really planning for next year is the key. But I do want to get some feedback on what this is telling us, the format of it. Is this enough information? Not just, are these the right projects and what are they, but like, is this the right kind of tool that you need to make decisions about budgets? And at the end of my time with you, we're gonna identify some next steps, like things like getting individual feedback to Mr. Turner and when and how this fits in with the project. So, the budgeting process.
Mr. Wilson?
I know it's a Greenway project, but is there any way to move the sidewalk projects from 26 to 25?
We're gonna do that.
You can move them anywhere the board agrees to move them.
All right, I'm asking if can we move them up to 25? Move them up here.
If you look on this back one here.
What we need to do is sit at home and
But we've been asked to do that 2 months and nobody did,
Sidewalk is
including
there.
myself. I'm sorry.
One piece of the coming budget will be the CIP funding for that year. For example, in 25, there's a total of $636,000 requested. If you will get to fund that portion of the CIP, and that will be revisited each year and adjusted. So when you see CIP in the $600,000, you're going to put those items on.
Okay.
And so if you want to move or change, That's what I need to know.
Yeah, I would-
To start the budget process.
And this is absolutely the right document.
Yeah,
Creedmoor's never had one, and I know that we did one at Siwassa, and I asked Mike to do it, so that, exactly for the reason that we're trying to do it right now. And to Commissioner Wilkins' statement, since we found out we have that money that's unassigned, that the auditor told us, we applied for a $350,000 grant to do the design of the sidewalks, and we didn't get it. That money is there now. I mean, now we're aware that money's there. We should take the money out of that $9 million unassigned funds and get the design done. We should spend the $350,000 out of that to get that designing done.
Mr. Wade, I'm working my way over there.
Alan, you said that the main focus that you wanted to do today was on the City Hall renovation project?
Well, yes, and we'll get to that specifically after we set this aside.
Well, it has to do with that.
Yep, sure.
One of the items on here, relates to that. I think if we're gonna invest the money to go ahead and start doing all the renovations that we have listed here, the PD, or City Hall generator, is on our capital improvement plan, for 27. I think that should probably be included while we're doing the upgrades and renovations here, to go ahead and do the generator at the same time.
Okay. That is gonna be one of my questions for the City Hall list, is there anything missing? So I'm gonna add that to that sheet here.
Georgia, I just saw your text, sorry.
All right, I think, ready for you to continue.
So as you all look at this, I think, Mr. Wilkins' instinct to look at these years and move things from year to year is how you all as decision makers need to be viewing this thing. Are the right projects on the list? Are there projects missing? What about the upcoming fiscal year? Do we have the right things programmed for that? What is the bottom line cost of what's already shown? What are the implications of moving things forward into the present or into next year, and how much is that going to be, and how does that relate to the overall city budget and the decisions you are going to make about ad valorem taxes? So I believe this is a great start. It's a comprehensive list that's been collected meticulously from among your staff for the current projects, and looking at it, I think there is enough detail on here, and you have some fairly smallish investments that have made the list here, but all of them do cost money and have to be budgeted for and accounted for in any given year. So I think that it's a little more time if you all could spend some more time with this and then have a workshop session to sort through any sort of priorities or official feedback. You were asked for some written feedback, Mr. Turner?
Any kind of written.
Any kind of
It would
feedback.
help, because that's clear.
You don't want us to just scream at action?
Prefer not.
Yeah.
I want something so I can say, well, you said on this day, this is what you asked for, this is what you get.
Real quick, let me ask one other question. Do we have a time limit on the $250,000 from the legislator?
No, but we got a request from them for a bunch of information, lots of forms that we put together and a preliminary estimate to justify that $250,000. That's why I generated this sheet to send it to the Office of Budget Management in Raleigh to get that ball started, to get that $250,000 headed. That's our
Okay.
So
I just didn't want,
higher.
yeah, I just didn't want to put this off until all of a sudden they said, well, you didn't spend it.
We have submitted that information, that's why I call it preliminary. It's everything that we thought could justify that $250,000 plus a few other things that could be done, and if it takes other funds from the city, that would be a request to you guys to approve.
So since that's the number one on this capital improvement list, is this the number one in order of importance? In the cities, in your opinion, and the staff?
The 5 years starts in FY, the yellow color, that's when the 5 years starts. I put this column in because that's things that's happening within this year, 23, 24. I mean, you were gonna get to 250, well, when the legislature said you're gonna get it 250, we put it in there and a few other things that's in our budget, our project.
So, are we today to tell you, let's start getting this project started, and by putting bids out. I know that some of this stuff is concerning, the ADA entrance equipment, is that the little button I asked for the other day?
On this side of the building.
On that side of the building.
Handicap parking,
Yep.
yes, ma'am. And I will tell you what, the generator's not on here, I did talk to the public works director about this one. And he said, we don't need it this year, but we need it in a year or two out. That's why it's projected out, and it's a replacement of that unit and reconnecting of the wires to the same size generator we have now.
Here.
It's not a lot of, complicated work, it's a replacement generator, correct, Steve?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so here's a word that everybody usually hates me to say. Mike, you ready? Here it comes. There's a new solar generator out there. Yes, Steve?
We call it a police department generator only because we're mandated to have that function. And in order to have it function during adverse weather, that's why the necessity to have a generator exists. If it were for City Hall, it's a whole different bucket.
It needs to be more reliable than just
So
solar.
if you are saying solar generator reliable and improve the track record with the police department needs,
Thank you.
that's why we have it, is him.
Yeah.
Mr. Pringles, in our past, work with the City Hall renovation, we of course projected a natural gas generator. Steve, you're projecting a replacement diesel generator. That's a difference in technology, certainly some solar, but the idea of when the power goes out.
Gas is referred because we never have to top it off, consistent fuel supply. Because if that's a storm or ice, you may not be able to get CREEDMOOR fuel or something, or bring the diesel. It has to run for a period of time, whereas natural gas, it's there. And
The line is in the ground already?
To duration.
So you suggest the natural gas, is that what you're saying?
I don't know that it's available in this location.
Yeah, that was supposed to be my question. We got to line up to the,
In the past, they said they could serve a generator at that location.
Good.
This is a good example of an item you want moved up. If
Yeah.
you're supposed to move it up, we'll move it up.
And we'll check into which one's best. Commissioner Way is raising his hand.
no, he's not, he's right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Email them, I read it aside, we'll email them.
Oh, I see this now.
I shot him some.
Well, it only blinks for so long. Commissioner White.
Natural gas is what we have at the fire station.
Oh, so what is it?
So it is here. We hooked up to it, and that's what we have at the fire station, run the fire station. It fires up automatically every week. There's no issues. Don't have to worry about who's gonna refill a fuel tank or if the fuel goes bad. It's maintained it's maintained on a contract for the people that put it in. They come and service it on a contract. Don't have to worry about the weather being sunny, if it's solar panels or something goes wrong.
What is wrong with you? Do you think I don't have electricity at night when it's dark?
Hey, it's all good.
What is
That's
wrong?
what Donald Trump said.
Only because Joe Biden can't remember.
The heating system for this building, is that electric or gas?
We have three different units, one PD, one in this room, and then one in that, and they're all electric.
Think about converting those to gas too?
If we can get gas here, that'd be an idea, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mike, put that on your list, convert the whole building.
I'm emailing him now, emailing him now.
We just didn't want to miss taking advantage of this 250, how we had to plan out, but to get that ball started.
Well, we'll go beyond the 250 for that item.
I was thinking that if we have a running gas and it was time to do it, now'd be a good time, but we can always change it over to gas when it's time to replace it, once we get the line up.
We've got the engineering costs gonna go along with this.
But if we're gonna replace the HVAC unit, we have to decide whether it's gonna be gas or electric, correct?
The first portion, yes, ma'am.
But that's why we've got an engineer. I just want to make sure you were awake back there.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the under general government, public works, PD generator, natural gas, $50,000 in FY '27, that is the item that you're talking about essentially moving up. Okay.
To 2025.
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting you. We just, got a grant pay for the, wiring and different stuff like that to set it up. But it could be feasible in the ground system and so forth. But that may be an opportunity available, according to the
State grant. FEMA grant?
okay. Don't.
You're on the record. You are quoted.
Bottom line is that it still costs us in the floor for $200,000, and at some point, that will become a shelter location, just like the, community center becomes a shelter location.
Which might not be a bad idea to tag that in to a generator too. If we could get a grant for it.
Might also be your police department located here, and their need to operate 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365, to qualify you for some type of emergency service grant.
Hmm.
FEMA schedule any full grants for police roles, that's why we call it a police generator. Okay, we could have it.
Cannot be a shelter.
We already have one, no, I'm saying there are opportunities.
For shelter the school does, what that was
Or
important.
if people who want for this building,
You never talked about it.
shelter or police station to qualify for FEMA.
Mhm.
So yes, there are people that
Great.
get that grant writer.
Just need the grant writer first. Let's back up and, yeah. Okay, so we can move that. It's one of the things about that, do you want to move on to City Hall?
Yeah.
Sure, let's go to City Hall. What the heck?
Okay. It's a good segue, but again, I think the next steps on the CIP
Mike's
is
gonna
to
go home
give
and
that,
drink for the next 2 days.
give that feedback, structured feedback and written feedback, documented feedback on what's on the list now. I know you're gonna have some questions. You've already had some immediate, questions about what is this project? I don't know. And there probably needs to be some time allocated to workshop this and ask additional questions to make sure you know what these numbers represent and what you're buying when you put this on your CIP. But also planning for 25. And then the other important question, I think, is what do we need to budget in 2025 to accomplish what's in 2026? Are there, and, taking one more pass as a board and as staff to think about what gets done in 26, and are there things like design fees or other things? And maybe Mr. Turner's already gone through that, but it's worth doing it more than once to make sure that 25 is properly allocated with things. I see a lot of construction projects, especially on the back page in 2025. You see some capital improvements there listed that look like implementation money, but is that all money that's going to be needed for this, I guess, is the question you can run back through the system to make sure that your CIP is fully allocated to funds. On to City Hall, you have this handout, and this has 10 separate line items on it. Doesn't include the generator, which we determined was approximately a $50,000 item. And there are 5 of these items that are above $25,000 each, and 5 that are below $25,000. So I was hoping we could take a minute and have you all look at these items, and I want you to identify your top 2 priorities for the expensive components of this plan. And
Just of this.
yes, of what you have in front of you. And your top 2 priorities for things that are under $25,000. I'm going to give you a second just to look through this. And I do want you to mark. I want you to put a dot or a check mark or something by these 4 things. The top 2 that are $25,000 or more, and 2 that are under $25,000. They're important to you as your top investment priorities here.
Steve, how bad a shape is our HVAC system in?
Here,
Mhm.
the worst system we have is heating district. We have your air handler inside you for heating. That's not that bad. The problem here is communication, controls, everything right now is wired all the way up. You don't zone anything anymore, because that stuff is obsolete. So if it works, we PD condition unit. So the PD, I would say, goes first.
Okay,
And that's planned in 26 on the big list.
well, what I was looking at is, City Hall renovations, not necessarily PD, but City Hall.
Yes, sir.
Is that all tied to one unit? In other words, you fix one, you gotta fix it all?
No, sir. City Hall, as it is now, is only the largest unit here in the country. All of them are split. That condition unit outside split part is the oldest. In this room here, it has its own dedicated heat pump, condenser, and air vent, and then admin, which accounts for the rest of it.
So, what kind of shape are they in?
This is the best, the gold is the best.
Okay.
I'd say second priority would be the admin unit.
So Steve, this $25,000 on this sheet of paper is an estimate to replace which of these units?
The 25?
Yes.
The PD unit.
The PD.
Okay. And deal with the controls along with the PD unit. Imagine you're a detective in your office and you get what dispatch says they get. If they're called, you're called. There's no ability to zone anything off to those kinds of things. This price includes that ability to. The best one is here, I can pull it up on my phone right now and see it. Very intelligent. I'm not asking for that.
We're not doing train again,
But it's
ever.
better than, I'm asking for new VAV boxes, basically, that isolate,
No train ever.
rooms. And have some control of their individual office space, if you will, or zone setting.
Yep.
Right now, it's all or nothing.
And we've spent over $8,000 on repair of the PD unit in the past,
And,
which is enough money thrown at that dead horse.
You know, a new evaporator unit, the cool unit upstairs. So, a lot of that is on control. It's still listed as magistrate, by the way, in the old control, and when they do the zone, it still says magistrate in your area.
Do we have the waste?
So I'm saying, does that give you an idea?
Yeah.
That's budget year.
Because I remember when that was the magistrate's office.
So do I.
Any other questions about what's on here and what it represents?
Did you approve before the magistrate?
We had to go in there a couple of times about bad checks.
Yes, sir, he's asking for your top two priorities. What he took.
We just go down the line?
Also, anything that's missing from the list, you think? We have the generator that is now on the table to be prioritized, to apply this money to in the absence of getting any sort of grant to fix.
Okay, then.
It's unclear, yes, for top two, exterior and interior, or just top two?
Top two things that are 25,000 or more, and top two things that are under 25,000. Because if we're gonna get to, we have 290 listed, if we're gonna get down to having all of this be grant funded at $250,000, something's got to go, or a couple of things have to go, because you're currently 40,000 over, given this list. If you, I'm sure that, some thinking about contingency is put into these numbers, but, to have a game plan based on estimates like this without any sort of contingency built in is probably not a good idea. Should be 10 to 15%. So the actual hard costs should be less than 250 to have a little wiggle room in case things come in higher or what have you.
Right now, we're at 290, without a contingency.
Correct.
So Mike, can you do a budget amendment rather than sitting at home morning?
Yes, sir. What I was trying to do was justify the 250, and we see there's other things that could be done and need to be done, that could be funded outside of that from the general fund, that could be easily designated. I just want to show them that we got more than 250, but this is what our list looks like, and we will fund the difference if we're approved.
I think we need to
do these other items.
Yes, certainly,
Ranking, I
yes.
think we just need to do the list.
Well, I'm sorry, the grant is indicated for the City Hall renovation and PD? Or
Just City Hall, all of City Hall.
all of this and PD too?
The whole building.
Okay.
All the floors, paint, wall, carpet,
That would
whatever
be
we
my
need to do.
suggestion, rather than ranking these things, do everything, and just fund it from jump follow.
Whatever is over that amount.
Mhm.
And, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll ask you this. is the solar panels on the roof going to offset $80,000 worth of billing?
I don't know. I don't know what the electric, who said no?
When Nita was a man's voice, I can't do that.
It was a man's voice. I can't answer that. But I want solar panels on this building. I've been fighting it for 5 years, and it's gotta start somewhere. That's exactly right.
There's some answer on my house, I can't just say that. Quantify, so.
I put solar panels on my house in 2015, and they paid for themselves in 5 years.
If you guys are good with all of this list, we can go back and start fine tuning and get some good.
Why are we only grading and graveling the Elm Street
Part
parking
back
lot?
for parking, for public parking?
Is that the one on Sandiford
It's
now?
the one right behind the building here.
All right.
From that side to the
I was just thinking, if we're gonna pave over there, why don't we pave over here and get it all paved at the same time?
Commissioner Albright.
Yeah, I just had a question about the solar panels too. Is there anything, I mean, is that just the cost of them?
Installation.
Installation.
That's just installation, that's not the, okay.
It's everything.
It's
Everything, cost of the panel.
Equipment plus
That's
installation.
low, that's a low
That's not bad,
estimate.
that's not bad.
One of the, irrespective of whether that estimate is low or not, I had originally had something in the range of 60 grand for installation on one side of the building.
I just am curious, what is the benefit? What does it give us? I mean, I don't know anything about solar panels other than you stick one out in the yard and it runs your generator. I don't know, so I'm just curious.
It's gonna lower your energy bill considerably, and there's
How long does it take how long does it take for you to actually recoup? Because you actually have to pay for those during that period of time as well, right?
You do, so you're getting your money back later over time,
Yes.
slowly paid off through the savings that are incurred. The payoff period varies, and 5 years is kind of fast. Sometimes
Depends on your kilowatt hours.
depends on how much energy you use and what your utility rates are and how well the panels are working and are you in a good spot?
Sun.
Like, it just depends. But, so you're looking at a 5-year, probably plus payoff period. What's changed in the past couple of years, since City Hall renovations were broached, is that this one of these crazy federal acts, it was a crazy name, Inflation Reduction Act, which is my favorite name of all time.
Which reduces everything but inflation.
But before that act was passed in 2022, local governments had no avenue for getting any sort of the rebates that were built in for companies and private citizens who wanted to put them on their properties. That act enabled local governments to take advantage of the credits that are funded through the federal government, just like anybody else. So now you have a tax credit program where you can qualify for the production and investment grants that are out there, which are 30% of the cost of installation. So you're talking about and this is the IRS is gonna write CREEDMOOR a check, which is kind of weird. But, what now?
I said because we're broke. America's broke.
America's broke, well,
Our pockets are empty.
yeah, that's another topic for another day. I couldn't agree with you more about that. The IRS is gonna treat you like you're a tax-paying citizen though, and so they're giving you the benefit to local governments and any sort of governmental entities now. So you now can do that. You can also sell those credits on the open market to a third-party person if you want to do that, and they can use their tax credits. So, that 30% reduction of the cost completely changes the dynamic for public investment in this kind of stuff. And going down that road is a different decision than it was 3 years ago because of that act. That act has a life to it, and it's a function of this current administration, and who knows what's gonna happen next, but it's available now. So if you wanted to pursue it, those funds are available.
I believe, the general consensus is that we get them to make sure our cost estimate are pretty close to accurate and proceed with the next step. And then anything over the 250, 260, whatever it was, 250, we'll come back to board and we'll do a budget amendment and pull it out of general fund.
Now, what, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm gonna say it again, I would love to have input from the staff on the, painting and the carpeting and all this other stuff. I mean, the textiles we got when we were talking about renovating the last time, I believe the staff was involved in picking out those choices.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could stay with those, because it's not my decision, they have to live here, they have to work here. They should be able to pick what they want.
I think a nice calming Carolina blue would look nice.
They can just cut you and.
Yeah, well, I believe that color.
Is that why Dennis got hired?
Yeah, he is big Carolina.
And we still have all those color palettes, I think we take a look.
Yeah, so,
That came picked out.
but I agree that it would be good to get input from our employees. Okay?
By the way, Bobby, my daughter just got in UNC, so.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
Your daughter just what?
got in UNC. She's a Tar Heel dad.
Go Heels.
Yep.
Okay.
Just saying. Okay.
I hope she got a scholarship.
No.
Then you're gonna be working a lot harder.
A lot of fast talking. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, where are we at next?
So if you were gonna fund everything plus have some allowance for a generator that could happen at the same time, you're talking about an additional $100,000 without significant contingency or overruns or any of that sort of thing. And depending on how you contract this, it's gonna cost differently. There's probably, if you buy a generator, you probably have a specialty contractor is gonna be my guess.
We've got a public works director, we even have a city engineer.
Do your own contracting? Yeah.
And we will sub some of this work out, and Steve will do some of this work, we've talked about it.
Okay, so yeah, you have a strategy for cost savings and delivering the work that's builds on your resources. That's gonna be less expensive than cutting a check to a general and having them oversee it.
When we revisit this, our numbers may go up as we add generators and other things, but everything over 250 comes back to the board.
And if there's ever a power outage in Creedmoor, we will all come here with our dogs, our cats, our birds, whatever animals we have,
And
because the generator will work.
my insulin and my,
Whatever. Oh, yes, all the stuff from the drugstore too.
We had a generator in Durham that when we ran it weekly at the jail, we sold that power back to the power company. It generates so much power.
Wow.
That this is small scale, of course, but.
all right, what else?
So if you feel like, that the commission has, weighed in on general approach to city hall budgeting and what's included, then I think that item is successfully completed. The capital improvement plan, I recommended some next steps that you all undertake, in doing that, and I think those were basically received.
They were.
So yeah, there'll be a workshop, some official feedback, and further clarification of projects as needed for commissioner's sake. And then, also just thinking about, not just the fiscal year 25, but also 26 and how to proceed with that. I had, those were the two things that I came to cover, and, that covers my part of the agenda, honestly.
All right, any other questions for Alan?
Thank you, Alan. Good job as always.
Thank you.
Not hearing any, Alan. Again, thank you for your participation. All right, at this time, Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any comments, questions, or statements you would like to make?
We do this every year, and I feel that this is the first strategic plan where we have really decided to get something done, because I feel like we come back to this list every single year of projects, and we are right where we were the last time. But I'm hoping that with a decision made on going forward, and we can stay on course with this, the only thing that I would like to know is this really has replaced our project list, is that correct?
That is the project.
That is the project list from now on. Is there a way that, like, every 2 months, we could get a progress report on this sheet, add one more column to in process, completed? It would just, I know that in the manager's reports, the departments put their stuff in, but sometimes things get skipped. And for many, many years, and Alan can attest to this, we've had this sheet for many, many years, and there are stuff on this sheet that was there 5 years ago, and it's still there, and it just gets kicked to the side. And so I would like to know, I know what is active, what's in process, what's completed, stuff like that. I just want to we need to keep track of these projects so that when it's finished, we can move on to the next one, like the wayfinding signs. I know we put it out for bid, and maybe they'll be coming back to us soon and with designs and get that stuff done. But the only other question I have, and it's when the software upgrade words popped up, are all of our computer systems up to current programs? We're not anybody on Office 8 anymore? Microsoft 8?
I don't want to tell you wrong, but BC3 will be here at your next work session.
BC3 has not done anything for me in 5 years.
Well, there will be you to explain our operation, our program, and what's changing, because contract expires March 24th. So it's just a review.
That'll be a good time to ask them.
I've asked the person here that serves our accounts to be here to explain this to you guys. What's done, what's not done. He's recommended changes from the hard lines to the fiber optic lines to increase speed. He's got a plan that he's presented to me and Sarah.
But if our software's not upgraded, it doesn't really matter.
I believe it is.
Software's gonna be part of that.
Software was in the first contract for 3 years. It said they would maintain upgrades to remain current. It's in the paragraph, because he was on that wall, and I said to him, does that mean what I think it means? And he said yes, and it didn't.
Let's let Richard Aban, if you will, explain this, because he's the expert in this.
I mean, because the systems upgrade for mostly, and Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for security purposes, so that you don't get hacked and you don't get chopped in. Is that right, Robert? Correct. Most of the fixes are security. So I just want to make sure that our people have the right software.
The other thing he's going to recommend is taking his server out and putting it in his database. They've got so much more storage area to put this stuff, like the cloud, if you will.
Did you say server?
Server.
Okay. Server.
Okay.
Getting rid of this metal stuff, the stuff that they junk, the metal.
Mr. Way, any comments, questions?
I mean, I think today was good to get some things out and work on some stuff. One of the things that's been on my mind is this is good when we're all together like this, especially strategically planning. I know it's been done this way, and when the budget season comes around, we have budget sessions spread out over 3 different meetings. My personal opinion is I would rather come in on a Saturday like we did today with our representatives from the department heads, and we can hash out and get everything done at one time, budget related, because if we spread it out over several meetings, some things may get lost in translation. Just my personal opinion.
And one of the reasons it's several meetings is that it gives us time to rework the numbers and bring back the updates to you guys that we couldn't do on just a flat Saturday unless we gotta rerun the numbers if you want things added or taken out or cut or whatever.
And I think that would be good if we went through and did the first one we did this big Saturday thing.
Yes, sir.
And then you could come back with the numbers. That way you don't come back and we change something and you come back the next time and present it to us again and we say, oh, well, let's change it to this time. And then the third time you come back with a third.
My question, get out and tell you there's 2 meetings next week.
So the first budget work session is March the 18th. If you want to change the date. Just let us know.
What?
The first budget work session is March the 18th. If you guys want to look at a Saturday instead, in lieu of that, whatever you wanna do, we'll try to accommodate.
The 16th or the 9th? Which one?
March the 16th, March the 23rd, March the 30th, we're getting right into a couple of work sessions there. Anyway, I mean, that's something you could discuss at the next, meeting, Mr. Mayor, if you wanna do that.
Yeah, we'll discuss it then, shoot out some dates and see what goes on.
Second budget work session, April 15th, and the third one is May 27th. You've got a little time in between that, pick a date you want. Anyway.
All right, Commissioner Wilkins.
Thanks, sir. This has been a great day for great information and education about our future planning. I want to thank the city manager, all the participants, our mayor and the board for a great meeting. Thinking about the future of Creedmoor. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Albright.
Thank you all for being here today. Miss Amanda, we're glad to see you. We haven't seen you for a while, so it must be important today for you to attend this on Saturday. Just thanks for everybody for being here and all your information, and hopefully we'll get our heads together and get it wrapped around the projects and have a good year. Thank you.
Mr. May, we appreciate the county's participation in this, also county schools and the others that are involved. And above all, we thank our own city staff for spending their day with us.
Yeah, Miss Sarah.
When they could be home
and Barbara.
watching basketball or something. And the chief, again, I feel well protected with you back there. All right.
Before you adjourn, Mayor.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of good things today that I feel great about. I mean, we've had some good information, good conversation. As the fire department, as the school superintendent, and the county manager, and other people spoke highly of the staff and people in the working relationships that we have here today. And I'm very proud of that, and we've got a good solid working relationship, and we certainly want to continue that. And thank you all for your time today.
One other thing for me, if you can do this so I can read it without a magnifying glass. I just, I can't hold it quite
I
that
just
far
got new
away.
glasses and I can't see.
Here you go.
So.
I didn't need these until I joined the city council.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Oh, yeah, we wanted to read it.
I just want to say something I said earlier. We have the best staff, manager in the state of North Carolina.
Oh, my credit goes to the team, they do the work,
That's what makes you a good city manager.
They do all the work.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I am so glad the relationship that this board has with each other. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, when I came on this board in 2019, there was no relationship between the county and the city. It was a disaster. And it got worse for a while, but Tim said it, and I think, Russ, you said it, we have now got a good working relationship together, and we may not always agree, but we agree to disagree, and that we need each other. All these options and things that we want to do, that you want to do, and to thought of doing it together with us is a good thought, and I would like to see these things survive. Maybe not every single one of them, but we can do everything we can possibly do, and to help our fire department any way we can. And I know that we have all worked very hard for that goal.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Wilkins, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned.
Bye, family.
Russ, again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Next slide.
No, we were supposed to go until 2:30 was when I was supposed to adjourn. But we could have sat here and asked, Commissioner Wilkins where he gets his hat.